So Shōgun on FX and Hulu. This is one of the most talked about shows so far of 2024. There was a lot of anticipation coming into this. There's a big history with Shōgun, as I mentioned. There is the novel from 1975. There is the 1980s miniseries. And so it had a built-in fan base, but also for new people who might not have discovered Shōgun, I think if you just took a look at any of the marketing and any of the trailers, it certainly felt like a big epic show that needed to be watched. And it certainly had a huge opening. It was one of the most watched, if not the most watched premieres on Hulu. I think it surpassed The Bear when the first 2 episodes dropped a couple of months ago. And every week thereafter, they've been dropping in these episodes in this limited series, 10 episodes that just wrapped up. And it is certainly a show worth talking about that we wanted to wait until it concluded its run on FX and Hulu to come here and properly talk about. And so, with all of that out the way, man, I'll pass it over to you. What did you think about this brand new Shōgun miniseries?
I don't even know where to start with this show, dude. Shōgun. So this TV show takes place in the 1600s in Japan, of course, at the dawn of the century. And it's Civil War. There's a lot of things going on. I don't want to get too deep into it. But one of the main characters, Toranaga, is fighting for his life because there are other people who usually sit on the council with him, and they are uniting against him. What happens is a mysterious European ship turns up, and a white man from England causes ruckus throughout this whole thing. But they kind of use the white man, Toranaga in particular, uses the white man to somewhat uses them as a tool for his Civil War. And there's just so much to talk about the show, man. First and foremost, I'm gonna just talk about the acting. Hiroyuki Sanada is a legend. He's just a legend. He's so good. And every time he was on screen, there was a presence that this guy was a leader. There was a presence that this guy was him. He's so smart in this show. He talks with patience all the time. He's almost like a dojo master that you would see in a training arc of some anime or something, but he's the main character, or he's one of the main characters. And it's just like, this dude just feels powerful by the way he carries himself and by the way he speaks. He's such a good character. It was crazy to see the ways that he uses the white man, played by Cosmo Jarvis. I think his name was Blackbeard. Blackthorn. There it is. See, Blackbeard is another. See, that's that pirate talk. But yeah, Blackthorn. Oh man, he was so good. Cosmo Jarvis, the white man that played the pirate. Me and Jordan kind of talked about this on podcast. To be honest, at the beginning of the show, I wasn't all the way there for him. I wasn't. There's a couple reasons for that. One, I wasn't really sure the acting was. It was weird for me, the way he spoke and moved, his mannerisms. I don't know. I just wasn't all the way sold on him. But by the end of the show, I was like, okay, yeah, I think I do like you more than I did initially. For sure. It's not only that, but I did have, I was afraid in the beginning of Shōgun because the way it opens, those first couple episodes, it does kind of present the pirate, the white man, to potentially be a white savior. And that's far from what we wanted, right? Like this white savior story, because yeah, we're sick of that. we don't want that. And it ended up not being that. The show doesn't end up being that. So again, overall, Cosmo Jarvis, he ends up being okay. The star, the real star, the GOAT of this entire series is Anna Sawai. I think it's this woman here, this actress, is about to get so much talk during Emmy season. She was so good. She served as a translator between Toranaga, right, and the white man, the pirate, for the entire show. And there's so many complicated things there between relationships, between, is she translating correctly? Is she translating does she have her own means of loyalty? Does she have her own means of not being in a certain situation? Is she being truthful? Is she being loyal? It's just, she was doing, I think, so much in this show. She came with a peacefulness. She came with mindfulness. Just really good overall. One thing I want to say about the show is it's an epic and it's about war, but it's never like it never feels like I'm watching some bombastic fight scene that took millions and millions and millions of dollars to make. Instead, what they do so brilliantly, I think, in the show is they decide to keep a lot of things smaller scale. There's small battles, yes. There's infiltrations. There's nighttime sequences, but there's never in some super over the top crazy sequence that's like, oh my god, what was that? And I love that they do that. They keep the story kind of contained. That way you're following the dialogue more than you're really anticipating anything action to happen. So I really like the ways they did that. I thought they walk with poise in that way on the show as well. But Shōgun, man, an epic show. Again, I could talk about the show for a very long time. I think it is already for sure one of the better series of the year. Of course, we have to see how the rest of the year pans out, but the show was absolutely phenomenal. I hope like you said, it's one of the most talked about shows, but I still know a lot of people who need to get to it and who need to watch it. It's that good. And yeah, man, just what a tremendous job, I think, across the board. Shout out to the cinematography. Shout out to the way it feels. Shout out to the way it was color graded. There's just so many things I think they were doing right here. Shout out to the costumes. Oh my God, the costumes. I could talk about the costumes for a long time as well. But yes, Shōgun, an epic that, to be honest, I'll never forget. And I honestly can't wait to rewatch it.
So in our current streaming television landscape with the oversaturation of original shows that we get, there's just far too many things to watch. There's not really room for event television anymore. That's gone. Those days are over. The days of having epic television shows that everybody watched at the same time, like Breaking Bad, like The Sopranos, like Game of Thrones. There's just too much out there. Shōgun is now the closest example of where we can get to in the past couple of years of what something can feel like in terms of event television, where a lot of people are watching it and a lot of people are talking about it. And it's certainly due praise, because this show, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal across the board. There's so many things to love and celebrate about Shōgun. First and foremost, the performances are just exceptional, and Anna Sawai is a star in the making, and her performance here is just absolutely breathtaking. Everything that she had to do and everything that she had to hold and keep together within the show, she's really the glue. And by the end of it, when you see how her story progresses and where it ends up, it is an emotional gut punch on every single level. And I think that even in episode 9 and 10, and where you really start to feel her presence, those things are just so key and really reinforce how important to the show she is and how important to the source material that she is, because this is very faithful to what the book was, and the fact that there are a lot of conversations, there are political machinations. And I think a lot of people have been comparing it to Game of Thrones in that way, which I think to some extent is appropriate, because it is certainly much more than just action and battles and epic set pieces. It's really about the conversations, the relationships, how people move, how people are navigating their current situations, how they're trying to jockey for position. All those things are very much at play here. And that's really where the show shines. And you have to be locked into the show, because 90% of it is in Japanese. They do not take any shortcuts. This is all in a very, very different language. And Japanese is a difficult language to understand if you're not paying attention to reading those subtitles. You have to be locked in and fully committed to the show. This is not something you should be watching while you're texting. You shouldn't be trying to multitask while watching Shōgun. It requires you to commit and invest into it, and it's worth doing so. This is a show that will pay in dividends if you do give it that time and give it that appropriate amount of attention, because there's so much that's happening in every single conversation, so many emotional beats that are happening in every single conversation. And I think outside of Anna Sawai, Hiroyuki Sanada, of course, incredible. The rest of this ensemble cast also does really, really tremendous work here. There's so many great motivations to everybody that's involved. And I think that by the end of it, when you reach the conclusion, everybody kind of ends up in a natural place, in a place that makes sense for them in particular. And really outside of that, the costumes and the production values and the set design and everything here from a technical standpoint, it's top tier. It's some of the best stuff that you'll see on television. It's so faithful to 1600s medieval feudal Japan and what they were going through at that particular time. This is big budget level filmmaking on a television scale that we just rarely see, but it doesn't utilize any of that as a crutch. It's only meant to enhance the story and meant to take it to the next level and to make it as authentic and true to that time period as possible, while focusing in on the story and the characters and the moments between them. And ultimately, I think that by the time we reach award season, this is going to be the show to beat in terms of Emmys and the limited series categories. We're going to be talking about Shōgun for probably the next year because it's just going to do so well. And I think a lot of these award shows, maybe the only thing holding it back may very well be the fact that it is almost entirely in a different language. That might be a roadblock for it when it comes to American voters, maybe, potentially, but it's so pervasive and it's just so well done that I think that by this day and age and by 2024, I think that some of those apprehensions probably are mostly gone, and I think that this show will get its just due when it reaches award season. And I'm certainly hoping for it and pulling for it because everything that they did here, man, it's really, really phenomenal. And I think that the thing that I enjoyed the most that actually caught me by surprise because I didn't read the book is how things ended and where we ended up, where it doesn't end with this huge battle. It doesn't end with this huge over-the-top spectacle. It really focuses in on the characters, and it just stays true to what it is. And even the creators, behind this show, Rachel Kondo and Justin Marks, they don't take any shortcuts because this is somewhat reinventing the source material, but it's not doing so in a way that does a disservice to it. A lot of that stuff that does happen by the end of it is actually taken, from the page. They just, sort of adapt it and interpret it in their own way. But even in the book, from what I read and what I researched, there was no huge battle at the end of this. And they could have easily just shoehorned something like that in to make it feel more epic, feel more satisfying to the common viewer, but they don't do that. They stay true to who they are, and I'm really, really appreciative for that because this is a different type of show. It's really singular in its efforts and in its achievements, and I think it'll be one of the most talked about shows that we cover, for the next 12 months, and it certainly deserves all of that praise and all of that adoration. So, folks, those are all of our thoughts on the FX and Hulu limited series Shōgun. If you've checked this out, hit us up and let us know what you think.